Good morning and salam perpaduan, salam Malaysia Madani. First of all, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for inviting me. A little unusual for a cabinet minister in the government speaking about Sabah rights, Borneo rights here, but I'm used to it. I've been given the topic of status of negotiation on MA63. Why are we talking about negotiation here? So it's important to understand, as a background, we need to refresh a little bit about how we get here. I mean, why there is a MA63? Why are we in Malaysia? And why are we still negotiating? Very important to understand. And I can also understand our earlier speakers about our frustration. The most frustrated person probably is myself. I know you have already known about why Malaysia was formed, but just to refresh, we were colonies then. After the World War, there was this issue of decolonization, and British was forced to decide what to do with its colonies. And Sabah and Sarawak, Brunei, among the colonies of British. And so, in the interests of British, they talk about forming a grouping called Malaysia. And this idea was mooted between British and Malaya. And the idea of Malaysia was formed. And originally, the idea for Malaysia was supposed to be a confederation, as discussed in the London talks between the two prime ministers of Britain and Malaya. So what happened was, when this proposal was made, the Borneo territories, the colonies of North Borneo, Sarawak, Brunei, they rejected the idea of Malaysia outright because they wanted independence first. They wanted independence, and they sent a memorandum to the United Nations rejecting the idea of Malaysia before they achieved independence. But soon there was uprising in Brunei, and the idea of presenting their case to the United Nations was unrealized. So what happened next? Malaysia project was rushed, and they signed the Malaysia Agreement on the 9th of July, even before the process of forming Malaysia was completed. So there is a question here, why did they have to sign an agreement before the process of forming Malaysia was completed? Sabah and Sarawak were still colonies. Their aspiration was to be independent, but they were taken over as colonies and transferred by Britain to Malaya. If you look at Article 1 of the Malaysia Agreement, it clearly says that the colonies of North Borneo, Sarawak, and so on federated with the existing states of the Federation of Malaya, and the federation shall be named Malaysia. So meaning in MA63, there was no new nation, no Malaysia, only a change of name. That is one side. So you must put that in mind. But Malaysia only became a reality on the 16th of September. So in between the three entities, Singapore, Brunei, of course, pull out the last minute. And North Borneo and Sarawak got together, and each of them, on their own way, decided a UDI. Singapore earlier, then Sarawak on the 22nd of July, and on the 8th of August 1963, the Legislative Council of North Borneo made a resolution, a unanimous resolution to exercise their rights to self-determination and to declare 31st of August as to declare Sabah independent on the 31st of August, whether or not Malaysia becomes a reality on that date. The proclamation of Malaysia took into consideration what happened in between. That means for Sabah, 31st, self-government, independence, whatever you want to call it. Same thing in Sarawak on the 22nd of July. And this is reflected in the proclamation of Malaysia, whereby on the proclamation of Malaysia, it stated that the states, now with capital S, Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore, to be federated with the Federation of Malaya. So now here we federated with the Federation of Malaya. Article 1 of MA63, we are federated with the state in Malaya. So it appears to be there are two-tier federation. But anyway, this is a complicated issue that we shall not dwell into. But what happened? Malaysia was accepted in principle by Sabah and Sarawak, as stated on the paragraph 6 and 7 of the Intergovernmental Committee report. It states that the decision resolved that this council do welcome the decision in principle. In principle, the decision of the British and Malayan government to establish Malaysia by 31st, provided that the terms of participations and the constitutional arrangement will safeguard the special interests of North Borneo and so on, accordingly authorize some people to be the representative. So, you see, this is the root of MA63 that we are going to talk about today. That Malaysia was accepted in principle based on certain conditions. And among these conditions listed under the 20 points or 18 points for Sarawak. And many of these was discussed and elaborated and added under the IGC. And eventually it ended up in the Federal Constitution. And some were not in the Federal Constitution because on the Article 8 of the MA63, it says that the governments of Malaysia, the government of North Borneo, Sabah, Sarawak, and so on, will take legislative, executive, or whatever action to implement the assurances and promise or recommendations that were not specifically implemented or provided for in the federal constitution. So not all the rights and interests of Sabah and Sarawak were incorporated in the federal constitution. So there are two aspects. Those that ended up in the federal constitution and those that did not. They are still our rights and we have the right to claim. Now, when we talk about MA63 and the negotiations, we actually talking about what is in the federal constitution. Now we are in Malaysia for 61 years. Where on earth do you find an agreement that took 60 years to implement? Only here in Malaysia. That's why you're all frustrated. And why? Because nobody is allowed to talk about the Malaysia Agreement, not even raise issues in the federal constitution for a long time. So that's why many of our YBs they're not even aware what is in the federal constitution. When I raise up some of these issues, they think I am crazy because I was put under ISA. So they think this Jeffrey is crazy. And when I keep on raising the 40%, for example, eventually the speaker called me up and said, why do you keep on raising this 40%, 40%? When I showed him the federal constitution, then he was surprised. Now everybody wants to be a hero and promote the 40% net revenue, right? So this is the case in Malaysia. You cannot raise this issue. And I tried to remind the federal government in 1986, 87, and I ended up in ISA. Mahathir said that time, Jeffrey, don't teach the people what they don't know. Imagine a prime minister telling any one of us here not to teach the people what they don't know. I thought that was, you should be teaching the people what they don't know. But I was told, don't teach the people what they don't know. Anyway, I was told that time even land should go under federal. This is the prime minister telling me that time. But 30 over years later, the same prime minister told me, how can you equate Sabah with police? We are three entities, equal entities. He was puzzling. So he reversed his gear. And I'm glad that the same person who said, don't teach the people, he was the one who became prime minister the second time, and he set up the special committee to discuss MA63 in 2018. In 2015, that was the first time officially we submitted a memorandum to the federal government on the Sabah rights. Together, there were two memorandums, one from me, one from Edmund Bond. Is it? Yeah, not James Bond. Huh? Yeah. And we submitted it, and at the time, Najib promised to set up, and this committee, cabinet committee, was actually jointly headed by Anifa and Datuk Seri Nancy at that time. But Najib lost the war and election, and so it was never materialized. And in 2018, when there was a change of government, Prime Minister, the second time, Tun Mahathir set up the Special Cabinet Committee on MA63. And then there were many prime ministers in between. Muhyiddin, after Mahathir, Muhyiddin, actually, Tun Mahathir wanted to come back again to become prime minister the third time. But he didn't realize it, so Tan Sri Muhyiddin set up a special committee, a council, MA63, and when he was about to fall, Prime Minister Sabri continued the work, and there was some progress. The first time Mahathir set it up, of course, he also became the chairman, and certain areas were not allowed to be discussed. Anyway, they managed to increase Sabah's net revenue from 26.7 million, which was, it remained 26.7 million for 40 years, managed to double it up to become 53.4 million under Mahathir. Yeah. And then under Muhyiddin, and later on Sabri, it was Sabah was offered 125 million as interim payment, and at the time I was very unhappy when I saw the list. There are several lists. Settled, partly settled, then under discussion, and finally non-negotiable. So there were 4 lists. So I was surprised to see this net revenue 40% was transferred to the settled list. And in 2018, I think it was 2018, I demanded to put it back to not settle. And that the 125 million is interim payment. So they put it back unsettled. And later on, there was a change of government again and change of prime ministers. Many prime ministers. So when the PMX became the prime minister, I asked him whether he wants to continue with the cabinet committee on MA63. And he told me, what for committee we just implement? I said, So I asked him, are you sure? He said, yes. Okay. So I am holding him on to that. And later on, he established the MA63 implementation committee. So I was glad. But as usual, they come back to the old habit. And now what happened, some of the NGOs are very, they can't wait. They want to get it implemented because we have been talking about it for 60 years. And so Sabah Law Society was going to court. They had to resort to go to court. And now even going to court, the federal government, the next higher court, they try to, what is this? Not to discuss it in court. So, of course, the first round, SLS won. Now we can discuss in court, but I hear now they're going to the federal court again. So that what is the purpose of trying to avoid discussing it in court? Do you see a hint here? Are they really going to settle this or not? So what happened? I will discuss in detail later, but let's look at the table of where we are now. 21 issues were submitted, and you find it in the list. Today, these are the 21 matters. I don't have to go one by one. I think you have a list. But the settle 11 matters settled out of the 21. Go back. 11 settled. 1 partly settled. 4 settled, not settled, but with decision. We will go and see what they are. And then not settled, but in discussion. And not settle at all because agree to disagree. I don't know whether that means settle or not. Okay, so among the settled issues, listed like this, penyerahan kuasa kawal selia LPG kepada Kerajaan Sarawak, Ayuh Laki. You see, this is another issue. Sabah Sarawak should be moving together. Not separate. We are Borneans. Our agreement sama saja. Our interest sama saja. Always remember their tactic been divide and rule. Kasih gaduh-gaduh, kasih pecah-pecah. That's what happening. Second, penyerahan kuasa ke atas pentadbiran Pulau Simpadan. Ada one, okay, because we want it the World Court. Nomor 3, pindaan perlembagaan persekutuan. Artikel 1, 2. Now these two have to do with what is Malaysia. Malaysia actually not really defined in the federal constitution, and the Federation of Malaysia was not there. So if you look at Article 160 kurungan 2, the Federation was defined as the Federation created in 1957. So Malaya masih Malaya, Federation of Malaya, kita masuk di sana. Yeah. So then they changed Article 1 bracket 2 in 1976. 1976, they lump us all together. Malaysia comprised of Samoa state, one line. Before 1976, it was categorized separately. Malaysia comprised of A, B, C. After 76, they lump everything together and become set number 12, Sabah. Set number 13, Sarawak. That's why our IC is 12. Sarawak 13 enggak? Nah, see? Last time was K for Sarawak. Ours was H. So what happened is that in 1976, they tried to implement Article 1 of the Federal Constitution to make us a state in Malaya. There's no Malaysia. Okay? And 76, a lot of things happens. They also took our oil. You remember? And there was a terrible plane crash in Sembulan, Kota Kinabalu. Almost all our cabinet ministers were wiped out. The funny thing is, while we were mourning on our loss, the federal government came rushing, asking us to sign the surrender of our oil. Kita masih bakabung. Mourning, and they come back, sign this. And what is in it is a surrender. To surrender our oil rights to Petronas. And we sign it. So what happened? What did we sign? In that agreement dated 18 of June, 1976. Barely 2 weeks, 10 days. We were mourning. No, 1 week after. Okay, forget about the actual date. First, in that agreement, we agreed to surrender to Petronas our oil. Second, we agreed to accept only 5% cash payment. That means 95% go there. Third, we agreed to waive our right to collect royalty. I cannot understand. We agreed to surrender to waive collecting royalties. That's what we signed. Anyway, a lot of things happened in 1976. 1976 also, we changed our constitution. I don't know about your Sarawak, but in Sabah, the Yang di-Pertuan Negara, they changed to Yang di-Pertuan Negeri. 1976. A lot of things happened in 1976. Okay. And because of that, we are supposed to have the first review on our rights on MA63 in 1975. But 1975, a few things happened. Tun Dr. Ismail passed away. Later on, Tun Razak passed away. When they passed away, we also MA63 pun mati. So we didn't do anything until naughty boy Jeffrey raised it up in 1987. Then he ended up in ISA, and then 1994. They tried to force me to angkat sumpah jadi ketua menteri instead of my brother. Stupid juga itu. Lucky I had my principal. I said no. I am not president of the party. My brother is the president. Ask him to get him to swear in. Yeah. So today we are here. Don't be carried away there. So if you see here, yang settle itu pentadbiran Badan Kehakiman Sabah, Sarawak, penurunan kuasa kepada Badan Kehakiman, bidang kuasa hakim. This one all about court lah. On a 9-day penyediaan garis panduan khas penyerahan semula tanah bagi Sabah dan Sarawak. I mean, any land assigned to federal agencies, if nothing happen selepas 10 tahun, we take it back. Okay? And then Then penyerahan kuasa elektrik, it has been given SCSB now. So we Tenaga, we have IKOS Sabah now, maybe Sarawak also. So this one we have the power back. Penyerahan kuasa royalty minyak, pembayaran tunai petroleum. This is not royalty. Okay, cash payment is not royalty. They're trying to confuse you. If you look at PDA, cash payment, royalty, we waive, but according to the federal constitution, Parliament shall not pass laws to prohibit the state to collect royalties. So we should collect our royalty. This is our minyak ba? Not settled. This one on, this is for Sabah. This is one of the most important rights that we are claiming, that the net revenue, Article 112D, Sarawak also, but Sarawak opted for a specific amount, and they are now trying to review it. They didn't have a formula like 40%, but I was actually suggesting to them, why no need to make another formula, just use 40%, banyak itu. So what happened today, we offered 300 million interim, but it has to be settled within 12 months, and the 12 months baru expire. So I asked any meeting, bulan 9. So that means they are not very serious. So what happened? Among ourselves, di gado-gado. The state government tiada submit lah. Actually ada. 8 times we requested the federal government to provide the data because they are the one collecting. They have the data. We don't. So after 8 times, and the date was expiring, we forced ourselves to find the data. And we agreed to the data, the cabinet agreed, and it's quite a sizable amount. I don't want to tell you. Tapi figures that I've been mentioning tidak jauh dari sana lah. Big figures. 40% is a big figure. Yeah. And we want to make sure this is settled once and for all. We have not invoked going to the penny independent assessor, but sooner or later we may have to invoke it if we don't agree on the figures. And I heard the same thing will be happening. I mean, tarik offer certain figures. Begitulah itu. But election is coming. So where do we go from here? Do we demand? Do we get it, or we just accept? I don't know. You give us the opinion. Now, dua tenaga buruh in Sabah. We have our own labor laws. You know, Sabah labor laws is being implemented by Federal Labor Department. Where is the State Department? Yeah. Our law is intact. We should not change any more laws. We should just add the regulation so that the law remains intact. And then kuasa mengenai pelantikan. This one, you know, in Semenanjung, the Agong appoints the Hakim, and our TYT also have certain powers. Then over the years, they removed that powers. So we want it back, yeah, because it was there before. Now, so this one is, the decision is, yeah, we want it, but belum lagi implemented. Then number 4, penukaran status para Bintulu. I think you got the decision, but it's being implemented, right? Same thing. Okay. Next. Not settled, but in discussion. Federal obligation, financial obligation, there's a lot here, small things. Number 2, penambahan perjawatan perkhidmatan awam. This one, when you create the post in Sabah, Sarawak, if it is pensionable, then we know to go to the federal because of pension factors and so on. So we want to have powers to create this one. Kalau pension is no longer a factor, maybe EPF saja, or some other arrangement, then we need to have the power to create. 3, bonisasi belum lagi. How many from Sarawak are ambassadors out there? A few. At least, I think you have more. Sabah makali 1-2 aja. The border between Kalimantan, Indonesia, Sabah, Sarawak, still ongoing. And number 5, this one is another very important factor. When Malaysia was formed, the seats were divided to make sure there is no 2/3 in either side, especially Malayan, the peninsula side. They had 65% of the seat, and we had 35% of the seats among us. That means Singapore, Sabah, Sarawak. But what happened? When Singapore went out, Singapore seat is supposed to be divided between Sabah and Sarawak. They took 8. They give 4 to Sarawak, 3 to Sabah. So itu formula sudah miring sudah. And then they created more parliamentary seats in Semenanjung, without creating more seats in Sabah and Sarawak. And eventually today, instead of 65%, they don't have the 2/3. They have more than 2/3. They have 75% of the seats. Sabah and Sarawak only 25%. If they pass laws to erode our rights, they can pass even the federal constitution. They can change to erode our rights, and even 25% of our MPs vote against it. Tidak boleh, because they have the 2/3. Sudah pun dia ada 75%, dia bawa parti lagi pergi Sabah, Sarawak, ambil kita punya kursi. How do we feel? And then our people go and vote for these parties. They don't realize that we are surrendering our right to the MPs because they have to abide by the party rules. Betul kan tidak? So that is why today we want to claim back the seats, the 35% between Sabah and Sarawak. I think the additional 34 seats between Sabah and Sarawak. So then we can safeguard kita punya kedudukan di Malaysia. So it is being discussed actually during Sabri times. When he was PM, the committee agreed in principle that we have to work out how it is to be implemented. I hope they don't go back talking about it. Then cadangan perkara 95 mengenai ubah suaian bagi Sabah dan Sarawak mengenai pembahagian kuasa perundangan. This one is still being discussed. 7, pelancongan. You know, pelancongan used to be residual power. It's neither in the state or in the federal. So what happened in, I don't know, berapa itu? 1990 kah? They took this power, put it under federal. Now we want to claim it back. Pelancongan should be under Sabah and Sarawak. Yeah. Finally, isu kesehatan dan pendidikan. You are lucky because you have the money, and you are now able to manage and finance some of these keperluan. So slowly catch the monkey. But remember, in the 1960s up to 70 something, kesehatan pendidikan was under the state. We have a Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health. Yeah. So these are issues that are yet to be settled, but under discussion. And our aspiration is to have power over education and health. Okay, next. Not settled. Minerals. The Akta Laut. Hak negeri ke atas pelantar benua. Stamp duty and so on. These are actually issues that Sarawak especially says non-negotiable. Ours. We should move the same way. Apa ini buat pendirian yang berbeza. We should make the same stand to make sure we are united in claiming our rights here. Yeah. This is still unsettled, but I heard Sarawak is moving forward. You're getting control of your oil and gas, and that's why your revenue is multiplying so fast. So now you're creating your machineries. Yeah. Eventually, you're having a bank, airlines, universities. Wow, I envy Sarawak. So in summary, let's look at the from PM1, PM4. Don't teach the people. No wonder they try to have a project IC, and then somebody got arrested. Nothing happened. PM5. Badawi. PM6, Najib, 2015, he received a memorandum on Sabah Revenue. 2016, Special Cabinet Committee was created, but never functioned properly. And the good thing is the revocation of the emergency law, ISA, was abolished in 2011. So 2018, PM4 become PM7. So Special Cabinet Committee eventually, maybe that's why God put him there, to make sure he put things right. So Special Cabinet Committee was created, and these 21 issues were tabled. And PM8 continues on. He created 3 subcommittees. And then the 5% tax was agreed, and Sarawak and Sabah collected 5% sales tax. Syukur ada tambahan sikit. And then PM9, we talk about the 35%, and eventually Parliament was dissolved and didn't get anything implemented. Then PM10 came in and he promised to implement whatever is in the MA63, and hopefully that is done so before the next election. And we are now fighting for the 40% revenue. So this is the summary of where we are. And I hope that today's discussion, we can focus on what is the problem, what we can do, and how to do it. Because going to court is one way, going to the street is another, voting is another. And if we go back to the conditional acceptance of Malaysia, that means Malaysia was accepted in principle, provided our rights and interests are protected and safeguarded. So can we say today that this has been satisfied? If not, then what should we do about it? And we signed the Malaysia Agreement when we were colonies. Are we tied to it when at that time when our status have changed? These are questions that you can raise up. Those legal experts can give us the answers. Sekian, terima kasih.